All right, we are live. Okay, we'll just wait for a few people to get in and then I guess we'll. Hi, Priyank. Welcome. Thanks for joining in the live. We'll just wait a bit more. And then, so how have you been today, Eimear?
Good, good. Yeah, excited about this. Thank you for inviting me. And
Of
yeah,
course.
please know.
I'm also very excited about this topic, especially when it comes to consistency. The role of subconscious and is very, very important. And I realized this in my journey much later. But hey,
Mhm.
I guess we'll get started. We have a few people join in. Thank you, Yanka. I'm sorry if I didn't get your name right. And welcome, Monica. Okay, welcome first of all to Consistency Diaries. This is the first podcast I'm doing, and this is the start of a series of many of these diary podcasts where we go behind the scenes on what consistency looks like in real life, not the one that we see on social media, which pretty much seems perfect. Streaks are perfect, and I have somehow a bad relationship with streaks because I never managed to keep a streak straight, and but yet still be consistent. Hi, I'm Tina, and I write a publication on Substack called The Consistency Collective. And I do just that. I'm running a 365-day experiment tracking my habits all in public. I have a public dashboard, which I update about once a month. And where you can see it, how I miserably fail in some habits, how I'm consistent, but yet I get consistent. And I also have retired some habits. Today's conversation is with a very special guest, Eimear. She is a psychotherapist, and we happened to meet through Noemi from Me Time, and I'm ever so grateful for that introduction.
Mhm.
And so, hey, Eimear, welcome once again. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? What do you do?
Okay, so thank you again for inviting me on to do this, and I am so excited for where this goes and to be the first guest. It's really an honor. So my name is Eimear Finnegan. I am a psychotherapist in the west of Ireland. I, at the moment, work mostly in my private practice with people who are neurodivergent. So it's a lot of ADHD, a lot of autism, and other kinds of neurodivergence as well. I am working just one day a week at the moment because I have got three little kids and they are my biggest priority, I guess. So I spend most of my time with them. I'm working a little bit. I am, since the beginning of this year, working on my own newsletter on Substack as well. That's called Tapping the Subconscious. And yeah, I guess that's my main little intro.
Fantastic. And so we're going to talk about ADHD and neurodivergent friends of ours and the
Mhm.
role of subconscious and how it impacts our lives.
Mhm.
And so before we get into the conversation, how did you? I'm just curious. How did you decide to, take on a deeper understanding and tapping into the subconscious? What got you to write? I mean, if you could tell us about your story a little bit.
Sure, yeah. So I started a Substack probably about this time last year, not knowing what exactly I was going to write about. I was probably 7 or 8 months pregnant at the time with my third child, and I wrote one post. I get in the first post said that I didn't know what I was writing about, and then throughout the early part of my maternity leave, looking after my newborn a lot of the time, I guess I had lots of time to reflect on things that had happened in my life up in in the few years since I had become a mother. And I've been a psychotherapist for just over 6 years now. So I knew about the subconscious from like early in my university days, I guess, so going back
Right.
maybe about 15 years. And I had like a working knowledge of what the subconscious mind is and what it does, but I didn't really do anything to try and access it, I guess. So it was only when going back to 2023, about when I was about 4 months pregnant with my second child, I had a friend who was pregnant with her second child as well. She knew that she was having a boy. I hadn't found out whether I was having a boy or not. So she was due a little bit before me. This was, I think it was maybe the end of February. She was due in the middle of March. So I went shopping to get some clothes for her new baby. I knew it was a boy. So I went and picked up like maybe 3 outfits, got them home, packed 2 of them away into, what I was giving her the present in. And there was one of the outfits, I just couldn't put it into the bag. There was just something telling me, keep this one. It might be for your baby. And I put it away. I didn't think about it at all again for the next few months. I gave the present to my friend and her baby. And then a few months later, it was the end of June, my baby was born. It all happened very quickly, and it seemed like everything was going really well. And then, towards the time when my baby was about to be born, things kind of got a little bit chaotic, I guess, in the delivery room. All of a sudden, there was this recognition that there was something that needed to be avoided. I didn't really know what was going on. I won't get into too much detail about the whole labour situation, because I'm guessing it's early morning for some people, it's afternoon for others, it's lunchtime. We don't want to get into the kind of labour details, but as it turned out, my baby was born. Instead of his head coming first, his face came first. And now I've just said my second child is a boy. So he was born face up, or face presentation is what it was named to me first. And then everything was fine. He was okay. His face was a little bit bruised. That cleared up really quickly. It was almost an emergency, but it wasn't an emergency because it was actually too late to go have a C-section anyway, because he was already ready to enter the world. So later, when everything had settled down and the doctor came back in to explain to me what had happened, she told me that the colloquial name for how he had been born was sunny side up. So I thought that was lovely, such a lovely way to describe something that had seemed like really terrifying a couple of hours before that, but he was fine. So the next few weeks, I, settled into being mom to 2 little kids now at that point. And then I went looking for clothes that I had for a boy, because my first child is a girl. I, had different clothes for my little boy. And I found the outfit that I had put aside for my friend's little boy. And it was a little blue sweatpants and a t-shirt with blue on it and pink. So I, at the time when I hadn't had my baby yet, or didn't know whether I was going to have a boy or a girl, I was like, oh, this has got blue and pink on it, so it can be for a boy or a girl. And there was a slogan on the chest, and it said sunny side up on the slogan.
That's pretty amazing. It's almost like preempting this is going to happen.
Yeah. And, there was no kind of logic to it for me. It was just like there was this this desire, like, to keep this outfit. And I almost fell over when I saw what it said on the t-shirt. I was telling everybody about it for weeks afterwards, and it got me thinking, there is something much deeper going on. There's this vein, obviously, that caused me to do this, not knowing why I did it. But it was just this, it was like, this is magic. Like my body, or some part of me, knew months before my baby was born how he was going to be born. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps. Now that you say it, I remember when I was reading up on you, and I saw you've written about this in your
Mhm.
publication, right? Sunny Side Up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I do remember. It's such a fascinating story, and it
Mhm.
kind of tells us that there is more
Mhm.
to us that we do not
Absolutely.
know of. And
Yeah.
so I think this is a perfect segue to ask you, what is the difference between the conscious and the subconscious mind? And
Mhm.
what should our listeners really know about it that can probably change the way they look at themselves, or just in the way, how their beliefs are or how they go about life? I'd love to
Sure.
start from there.
Yeah, yeah. So I think in order to explain the subconscious mind, we need to look at what this conscious mind is first,
Right.
because it's kind of only through the understanding of one that we can think about what the other is. So the conscious mind, I guess, it is what all of us are aware of, as in, if somebody asks, what's on your mind? What's on my mind? These are the thoughts that I'm having right now. So our conscious mind is where our awareness is. It's where our thoughts come up for us that we can say, this is what I'm thinking about. And the conscious mind is where we plan, where we make decisions, or where we might think we make decisions. And it's the part that we can hear, I guess, all the time. The subconscious mind is in the background. It's much more powerful than the conscious mind. It's where all of our memories are stored. It's where everything that we're not aware of in the moment gets stored.
Right.
So it's much more powerful in terms of how quickly it can process things.
Mhm.
So, I guess often when we respond to something in the moment, say if there's an emergency situation, or say if we fall over, we go and put our hand out in front of us, right? It's not that I've thought I need to put my hands in front of me. That it's not the thought that's making that happen. It's the subconscious mind that's making us do that. The subconscious is I guess, it's keeping us safe all the time. It's running in the background. It's doing everything to keep our body in working order. It's making our heart beat. It's making our lungs breathe without us having to think about it. It's taking care of everything, basically. And it's so silent and so quiet that we don't even think about it. We're not aware of it.
Absolutely. And so subconscious mind is keeping us safe. That's what
Mhm.
you just mentioned. So when we want to grow and, do things to push ourselves, how does the
Mhm.
subconscious mind really help us or not help us here?
Mhm. Well, the subconscious mind operates on what we already have evidence for a lot of the time.
Right.
So when we want to start something new, the conscious mind often gets involved there, and we need the conscious mind to get involved in order to learn how to do whatever it is we want to do.
Correct.
So the subconscious takes over when something becomes automatic. So, like, I don't know if you drive or not, but so driving is a great example. For most of us, when we start off driving, we're very much doing everything consciously. We're looking at the gear stick, we're looking at all the
Right.
windows, or not at the windows, we're looking at all the mirrors, we're trying to think of everything that we need to be aware of while we're driving the car, and keeping it from going off the road and stopping us from crashing into things
Yeah.
on the other side of the
Yeah.
road and running people over and all that sort of thing. But after time, the more reps we give it, the more practice, the more time we spend in the car on the road, it becomes automatic. It becomes something we're not thinking about anymore. I'm guessing the last long journey you took, you probably weren't aware of every kilometer as you drove
Oh,
it.
no, no.
Yeah. So you
Right.
were probably on autopilot.
And when you talk about driving, I've lived in 3 different countries internationally. And when you come back to India, and I don't know if you're aware of the traffic situation, anybody goes from anywhere in any direction. And sometimes I wonder, like, how do I keep track of this person coming here or someone
Mhm,
driving from the opposite way?
mhm,
And I think now that you talk about it, I realize that subconscious has actually figured out how to navigate through that
mhm.
chaos, despite
Yeah.
knowing, rather fully prepared that anyone can come from anywhere.
Mhm. Yeah, I can
So,
imagine.
anyway, so tell me, the next thing I wanted to talk about is when we are looking at building, let's say, new habits, right, or new
Mhm,
behaviors, there's always this friction, and you're trying to figure things out. How do
mhm,
you, and sometimes some things take longer, and
mhm,
sometimes some habits are easier to build.
mhm,
Uh, but how do you work with your subconscious, especially when you get this internal resistance that, it is hard, it is difficult, it's easier to
mhm,
give up?
mhm,
And before you answer this, I just wanted to say, for the benefit of whoever's listening, and also for those who listen to the recording, that when I was preparing with Eimear like last week, and she gave me a tip about the subconscious, that I'm going to talk about, and I used it, and it worked like magic. I'm
Yes.
going to talk about that in a bit. And it was almost like summoning your subconscious.
Mhm,
But yeah, but first let's talk about this. Like when you have resistance, or you're doing a behavior that is not on autopilot, how
mhm.
do you really work with that? Any guidance, tips on, like, if you're hearing this voice, or the voice of the inner demon and the inner
Mhm.
guide? Is the inner guide the subconscious or conscious? Or I know it's a loaded
Yeah.
question, but feel free to start wherever
Mhm.
you want.
Yeah, so I think we need to make it as easy for ourselves as possible so that we
Mm,
can get some little wins first. Because
right,
once we have a little win, once we've maybe got some kind of benefit from whatever the new habit is, then we can see really clearly why it's a good habit for us to have.
right,
And we've seen it working, even if it's in a tiny way first. And the reason for that is because if we make it easy for ourselves to do it, then we've done it a few times, then we're building the evidence already. And even if it's
right,
just in really small little ways, like, I love your habit capsules because they're only 10 minutes. And no matter what, no matter how busy a day is, if we can't find 10 minutes to do something, then there's something really wrong. So the I guess the simpler we can make it, and if even if it's something really hard, if we can just do it for a few minutes one
right.
time first, then it becomes something that we can build on. And then it becomes something that the subconscious mind can, I guess, accept more easily, because it's not a huge change or a huge shift that
Right.
we're asking it to make overnight, when this we don't have the subconscious identity yet for that habit to be something we can believe in.
Right. And just for just since you mentioned about habit capsules, I mean, habit capsules, I'd like, I'd just talk about it for a bit. Habit capsules
Mhm,
is basically the smallest unit of time
mhm,
of a certain behavior or habit that you want to build, that you can do on, even on your worst day. That's why it is like 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 minutes of whatever it is. But you plan for your worst day because you're going to be busy, life is going to get chaotic, and
mhm,
that becomes like, so you keep showing up with these little capsules of habits, and then it becomes, oh, it's 10 minutes, let's do a little more. And that's how
mhm,
you build evidence. And yeah, so that's great. Now, when you talked about subconscious identity, and there's also, while I was doing some research, I read a lot about, I mean, this is also a topic I'm very fascinated with, is reprogramming of your subconscious mind. Is that what it's called? So is
mhm.
that possible, like, really, or is it just hype? and like there's a lot of videos on that online, but I would
Mhm.
love to hear from you.
Oh, yeah. It absolutely is something that happens. And, I guess now it's become kind of this topic in terms of how to do it. But
Yeah.
so like making it intentional. But the thing is that our subconscious mind is reprogramming itself all of the time anyway, as is the conscious mind. So, we're constantly adapting to the changing environments that we're in. And the the only constant really in life is change, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
true.
that's how we have adapted to survive all of these changes, is by changing on the neurological level. So our brains change. Neuroplasticity is it's got a wealth of scientific research behind it now, so
That's
it's proven to happen all across the lifespan. So I guess a long time ago it was believed that, or not even that long ago, it was believed that beyond maybe like up until the time we hit 20 or mid 20s, that we can't really change much beyond that. That's been totally
yes.
debunked.
That
So yeah, so I guess to kind of answer the question again, the subconscious mind and our conscious minds, they're constantly rewiring anyway, based on our environments and on what we give attention to. So if they're already doing it, what we want to do is just get more intentional with that change and make it change that we actually want to see.
right. So when you say subconscious rewiring, can you just help me unpack in terms of what does it actually mean? And as you and is there like a time of day where it probably makes more sense? And if there could be some guidance on how we could, apply it in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the subconscious gets rewired based on how we behave, and based on how we behave over time. So
Right.
the more we repeat something, the more it sinks into our subconscious that, oh, this is the type of person I am now. I'm the person who does the type of person who does this thing, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
journaling or reading or whatever,
Or
whatever habit
writing
we're
on
trying to.
Substack.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the more times we do it, the more that sinks down into the subconscious mind, and it becomes part of our identity. And when it's part of our identity, it becomes so much easier to follow through on it. It's almost automatic instead of something that requires a huge amount of effort to get started with, like it did
Mm-hmm.
to begin with. So, once we know how it operates, it gets quite easy to figure out how we can make it work for us and take advantage of how the subconscious works. And I think you mentioned or asked about the time of day.
Time.
I guess the time that our subconscious minds are most receptive to whatever we might try and communicate to it consciously is before sleep and upon waking. And that's because as we go to sleep, we're no longer conscious. I don't
Right.
know about you, but I'm not aware of what I'm thinking when I sleep.
Neither do
So
I.
yeah. So while we're asleep, the subconscious is still awake. It's still running all the functions of our body. It's making sure
Mhm.
that we're still breathing and that our heart is beating and that we're still in a safe place. So it's constantly monitoring our environment, even when we're not aware that that's what it's doing. So
Right.
that's the reason why before sleep and when we wake up is the time when we're most receptive to suggestion, to the subconscious, because it's the time when it's most in charge. It's most readily available to us.
Right. And I think this is the perfect time where I want to share the story and when we were talking about. And for everyone who's joined us right now, thank you for joining Noemi, Thomas, Tracy, and Robin. Welcome once again. We're talking about the subconscious mind and how we can harness its power to build consistency, habits, evidence, so that the demonic voice inside loses its power, because we've now created new behaviors and built evidence to actually do what we want to do. So last week, when I was preparing for this podcast with Eimear, and she happened to say, I think you said that, before sleep, you go and tell your subconscious something. And so I said, why don't I just try this? And I used to live in Berlin like a few years ago. And at that time, I used to wake up at like 3:45 a.m. and I used to get like 3 hours of me time. Hello, Noemi. And that was very important. So I did a lot of work before my daughter woke up, and then, life took over. And I used to miss that a lot. So I said, now that I'm an empty nester, I was like, why don't I try waking up? But somehow this time it's getting really, really difficult. So this week, and I've not been able to even wake up at 4:30. I'm barely making it at 5:30, because anyways, I used to wake up by 5:30, 5:45, but I wanted to wake up earlier. So this week on Monday, I went to bed. I said, I'm going to use Eimear's technique. And I said, and literally like talking to a sister and saying that, okay, dear subconscious, just before bed, tomorrow, waking up at 4:30. And I set up my alarms at 4:30. I set it up at 5. I set it up at 5:30. And just in case,
Sure.
And you won't believe it. I don't know what happened, but I was like, my eyes just opened up and I was like, I want to sleep. I was really tired. I went to bed at like 11:30, and I'm not a very good sleep. I'm not one of those who just hit the sack and just fall asleep. At about 4:26 or something, I woke up, and then I looked at my watch. And I saw it's 4:27. Like, why am I awake this early? And then my alarm went off. And then it hit me. Oh my God, is that the subconscious? So I said, okay, maybe it's one of those off, it's a fluke. It's probably just nothing. So I tried it again last night. Today morning, I woke up at 4:24 without the alarm. Wow. I was like, this is not true. And then this is something like I've been really trying to work. Because I wanted to build a series on how to wake up early and what am I going through, because this is the consistency journey I'm trying to share. But it works. But one of the things that I remember you telling that you have to feel it,
Yeah.
Because I really wanted to solve this problem, I was like, you have to do it. Make sure you wake me up before 4:30. And how it was like clockwork, eyes open. I was out of bed. I wasn't feeling sleepy. I was motivated to get out. Usually you're very groggy. So that brings me to, so thank you for that tip. And if anybody wants to try it, please try it and let us know what you tried. And, we'd love to hear that. But this works, and I'm going to make the most of it. So what else can we use our subconscious for?
There really isn't a limit. It depends on what we want from it and what we can believe it can, I guess, present us with. So that's the real limit, I guess. It's having the faith that whatever I ask, it will be answered in some way, even if it's not exactly the way that I might see it being answered or exactly the way I want it to happen. It will come through in some way, as long as we've asked it clearly enough and there's that belief behind it that this, this is already, what's the word? It's already happening. It's already in process because I've put words to it, even if it's just in my mind.
So Noemi asks, does a baby share the mom's subconscious? My baby nurses, so I can leave for Wally. Non-alarm can be set for it. So just, I think what are, so does the baby share the mom's subconscious?
Um, I
That's a tricky
I'm
question.
not sure exactly how to answer that because there are, sorry, there's a fly. There are some theories that, that there's a collective subconscious, that our
Mm,
subconscious mind is all, each one of us link to the infinite intelligence of the universe. So
yeah.
that's one theory about the subconscious. And it's kind of hard to answer that definitely. I don't know if there's any science behind that or not. And I think mom and baby are so closely linked anyway, aren't they?
Right.
Especially that early stage when they're nursing, the cues, and he maybe the baby is picking up on the fact that you want to leave, because I think they do that. They're much more perceptive than I think we probably give them credit to, or
Credit
give
for,
credit for. Yeah. Um, so yeah, maybe there is something in that. And I'm not sure whether she's saying he nurses before she goes, or that he starts looking to nurse when she
yeah.
wants to go.
Right. All right. So, talking about that, tell me, we talked about um, the subconscious, like in some way your subconscious is going to manifest. Now affirmations is a big thing, right? So when
Mhm.
it comes to sometimes, why do affirmations fail? I mean, is it because we don't feel it, or how can we make the most of affirmations? Because what I'm hearing from you, it's like you have to have some sort of a belief, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's very hard to believe something, especially if it hasn't happened to you. Like, can I have $2 million in my bank account when it's probably not there? How do you really believe that, and how do you affirm it? How do you broaden your horizon, saying that yes, it can happen, it's just not a reality today? And
Mhm.
if you can throw some light with the relation with subconscious and affirmations.
Yeah, and I think with affirmations, most of us probably start trying affirmations and start them probably way too big and not personal enough. So,
Right.
we might have an affirmation like you just said of, oh, what, there's $2 million in my bank account. And, no matter how many times I tell myself that, or somebody else who maybe has never seen $2 million, if we don't have the belief there that that can happen, because it's very far beyond maybe what we have evidence for in our present, in our entire past, then the subconscious is immediately going to reject that and say, we don't believe that, so it
Right.
therefore it can't happen. It doesn't mean that it definitely can't happen. It's just that, that there's no belief there for it. There's no evidence there for it. What we need to do is, be more specific about what we're affirming, be positive about what we're affirming, because the thing is with affirmations is that we're actually affirming to ourselves all of the time in our conscious mind, in thoughts that we're maybe not actually aware of, or we've just maybe accepted them as this is life. This is what my life is like. This is what the
Mm-hmm.
world is like.
Mm-hmm.
So we're using those kinds of affirmations all the time about what's going on in our present environment and what's going on for ourselves. And then, it's not any surprise really then that our lives look pretty similar from one day to the next for most of us most of the time. And it's
Correct.
because we're calling attention all the time to what exactly we see. And usually we're, I guess, phrasing it in the way that is most familiar to us already.
Right. And so that also leads into the conversations we have with ourselves, right? The
Mhm.
narrative. And
Sure.
And one of the things that, the consistency journey has taught me is, one habit is the doing habits, the other is the thinking habits.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the thinking habits is like catching yourself
Mm-hmm.
when you're thinking negative, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you're well into the thought and
Sure.
you're like, okay, I'm doing, my subscriber base is not going up since we are on Substack. So I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
most relatable one.
Mm-hmm.
When will I get paid subscribers? Why is nobody reading? Oh, I'm not good
Mm-hmm.
enough. Now,
Mm-hmm.
let's take the Substack journey, or the journey of being a writer on Substack and then getting uh, more readership. It's a long journey. It's a hard
Mm-hmm.
journey. So
Mm-hmm.
how can we work with our subconscious in the sense that, what can we tell ourselves so that it feels kind of real and motivates us to show up and be consistent in that sense?
Mm-hmm. And we really, I think, need to recognize what we've done up until this point. So,
Right.
I started at 0 subscribers. I'm guessing you started at 0 subscribers. Everyone
Yeah.
starts at 0 subscribers at some point. No matter what we're doing, what habit it is, we all start at 0 at some time in some place. So, early in the journey, sometimes it can be like and I think it's going back to those little wins, the little things that happen first that kind of keep us motivated to keep going. And then, somewhere along the way, there's a pause, there's maybe a difficult period, a rough patch where nothing feels like it's hitting anymore. And,
Yes.
maybe we're not getting as many likes or as many comments. And then, we can very easily then put in the narrative that, oh, this isn't working. This is a waste of time. I'm no good at this. Nobody wants to hear from me. And that's the exact time to go, well, what brought me from the place that I started to right now? It was putting in the reps, doing the writing, doing the engaging, actually, building the habit every single day or every single week, or, at whatever frequency we were doing it, that got us to even to the rough patch. So it's recognizing all that and each piece along the way that helps.
Right. I think what I'm understanding from you and what I'm taking away is that it's so important to build, even before we build different habits, is that first habit that we need to build with ourselves is catching
Mm-hmm.
ourselves in that
Yeah.
thought when
Mm-hmm.
we start becoming either very self-critical, or
Mm-hmm.
we just see we're taking a different path, and how can we
Mm-hmm.
bring it back to start looking at or identifying those evidence where we did something right
Mm-hmm.
versus did something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And now my favorite topic, perfection and broken streaks. Tell me, now since we talked about self-talk and broken streaks, and then when you break a streak, and that's also one of the reasons I started this experiment, because I just wanted to say that broken streaks is not consistent. It has, I mean, your streaks are important for consistency, but it is not, the end all for everything. You can still come back, you can still be consistent. And
Mm-hmm.
um, how um, how does perfection, like, how can you overcome, like, I had a lot of problem with perfection, like even I still do, and I'm fighting it every day.
Mm-hmm.
How can we how can we come overcome perfection? Like, do you have any tips here where it might be helpful for me? And I'm sure there are a lot of us here dealing with perfection, and because of which we are not shipping,
Mm-hmm.
the fear of being judged, the fear of being criticized, the fear of our beliefs getting challenged, perhaps. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
something about beliefs.
Yeah, and I think one important thing is recognizing that usually I'm my own worst critic. I think everybody is each their own worst critic. So most of the time, nobody is going to say anything as bad as we say to ourselves. So, and in order to, I guess, fight against perfectionism, we need to do the thing badly lots of times. So it's really about permission. It's like, there's this big part of us maybe that doesn't want to get anything wrong and wants to be perfect and wants to do it perfect the first time and every time. And that's completely unrealistic. Nobody who's really good at anything was really good from the very first time that they did whatever it is that they're really good at. So in order to get over the perfectionism as a habit, we need to do things badly first. And it could be an idea maybe to break it down into, okay, for the next week I'm going to do whatever it is, and I'm not going to judge it at all, or at least I'm not going to consciously judge it. Some judgments might come up automatically, and that's okay. It's just that we maybe promise not to give the energy and attention to whatever the judgments are, because the project that we might decide to work on is, I'm just going to do the thing every single day for the next 7 days, and then see what the results are at the end of that, and see how it felt starting off, doing it badly first, versus how the 7th day of doing it maybe a little bit better, actually, by the time we've got 7 reps in, and how we feel throughout the process. Because then we're taking whatever the thing is off its pedestal. It's not this thing that we need to do perfectly anymore, because we've just done 7 days of it pretty badly and it didn't kill us.
And you're so right. I mean, I don't think others judge us as bad as we judge ourselves. We are our worst critic. I need to write this down and keep it in front of me. It's definitely true for me.
Yeah.
All right. I have just so many questions for you, but I want to start with the rapid fire, and whatever comes to your mind first. I'm guessing the subconscious has a role here, but okay, I'm going to fill in the blanks.
Okay.
You are not lazy. You may be protecting yourself from
failure, probably, as in like the fear of failure.
Okay. The hidden belief behind I always quit is often?
The hidden belief behind I always quit is often I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to keep whatever the habit is.
Right. I kind of agree. Perfectionism.
I'm not good enough is behind so many, I guess, failed attempts. And, it builds up into this big pile of evidence that we have for I'm not good enough. And it was actually because we quit too soon.
And do you think that there's a role of willpower here to push through, or is it about challenging our own belief systems? Like, how do you move forward? Because if we latch on to I always quit identity, we are never going to push ourselves to get forward. Like, how can you, I just want to stay with this one a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's probably both, because, in order to get any habit off the ground, we need to have willpower. So, that needs to be present. It needs to be something that we commit to for whatever length of time. I think when we're starting anything from scratch, we need to set ourselves a really small target first, depending on what it is. So if it's something like exercising, it's committing to however often for the space of 2 weeks, and then coming back and reviewing it and seeing how it went. Or if it's something that we want to do daily, we can look at it after a week and see how it felt to do whatever it is that we did. But the subconscious identity work has to be present in the background as well, or willpower will run out no matter what. But if we have done the subconscious identity work first, then it's much easier to tap into a lower amount of willpower when we already know what our pattern is and what we will tend to default to. So it's much easier to start again then.
And subconscious identity is basically creating your pool of evidence.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so the next fill in the blank. Perfectionism destroys consistency because
it stops us trying. We're not going to try if we only want to do whatever it is perfectly. And in order to build a habit, we have to do it imperfectly lots of times first.
Just the repetitions.
Reps.
Okay. The next one. Here is what to do the day after you break your habit.
Do the habit immediately, as soon as possible. Just get it done, even in the smallest way possible. Do one of Tina's habit capsules, and that's it. Because it needs to be as quick as possible so that we can counter the missed day. Especially if it was, I don't think it matters so much if it was a day where we planned to miss it because of things being really busy or because of other things happening. But if it was the day where we did plan to do the thing, but we didn't feel like doing it, then it's really important to commit to doing it the following day in order for it not to become a streak of not doing it.
Right. The comeback.
Yeah.
Okay. A missed day does not become a pattern until
it becomes another missed day and another missed day and another missed day.
I kind of knew what you were going to say.
And I think it's whatever we're telling ourselves about the missed day too. So we can have a few missed days if we've decided I'm going to take a break. I'm going on holiday. I'm too busy for the next few days. That's okay. But if we're missing a day and then missing another day, and while that's happening, telling ourselves, I'm really bad at this. I'm really bad at I'm really bad at making habits. I can't stick to habits. If that's what's going on, then we're making it much harder for ourselves to build the habit back up again.
We are our own worst critic in action.
Absolutely.
Okay. The second last one. The difference between rest and avoidance is?
The difference between rest and avoidance. After rest, we will still feel like doing whatever the thing is, or we might even feel more engaged with whatever the habit is after a rest day. But with avoidance, we are likely to feel even less motivated to do the thing after one missed day. So we'll always know after one missed day whether we were resting or whether we were avoiding it, just based on that.
Yeah, for me, sometimes when I find it very hard and I'm trying to procrastinate, I'll be like, oh, I need a little bit of rest. But it's actually I'm avoiding. So I think that's where this fill in the blanks came from. Yeah. The subconscious doesn't care about your willpower. It cares about
what you repeat. So what you do most. And it probably cares as well about what you feel most strongly about. So if there's a very strong negative feeling about a habit that you're trying to build, then I hate to break it to you, but you're not going to build that habit. Not if there's something really, really intense inside that's saying, that's really resistant, that really hates whatever the habit is, then try a new habit is what I would say there.
Right. Okay. So you did really well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That was interesting. Okay. Now I wanted to talk a bit about ADHD and, how can someone with ADHD or someone who's neurodivergent build about consistency? Let's start from there. And probably since there's a lot of your work focuses on this population, I would love to get started there.
I think the biggest thing is probably to take advantage of the way the ADHD brain works, rather
Right.
than trying to maybe force it into complying to what's best for a neurotypical brain. So for somebody who's ADHD, most of the time, or there's a lower baseline of dopamine, which means that in order to get motivated to do things, we need to be really interested, we need to be really excited about them. If something is boring, it gets pushed to the bottom of the pile really, really easily for somebody
Yeah.
who has ADHD. So we need to do things and try and form habits that we're really excited about. And we need to make a plan for how we're going to continue being excited about them in some way beyond the initial phase of, oh, this is something novel, this is something I'm enjoying. Because, I guess that's the traditional story that we hear from somebody who has ADHD, isn't it? Like, I start really strong, I do it every day for 2 weeks, and then it just got boring to me. So
Right.
when we know that's likely to be something that happens, it's how can I challenge myself? If it's likely to become boring after a week or 2 weeks or whatever, then we need to up the ante. We need to make it harder in some way, or there needs to be some kind of reward. It needs to be more of a challenge, because if we've done something consistently for 2 weeks, then we've already built the reps enough to be good at, or to to easily be able to do whatever the thing is, whether it's writing or some kind of exercise or whatever. So it's bringing a new challenge into it and doing that before we usually get bored. So if I know I usually get bored after 2 weeks, it's like, okay, well, once I have 10 days done of this thing that I'm excited about, then I'm going to, add an extra layer to whatever the challenge is, and build on that then as well. So do another 10 days of it with the challenge. If that went okay, make it another kind of challenge. So maybe it might be like challenging ourselves to get whatever it is done in a shorter amount of time, or to do it somewhere we haven't done it before. Or I think we probably need an example to kind of make this work.
That'll be wonderful.
Yeah, so like if it's writing, for example, just because this is a Substack Live, we've got lots of writers here. If it's somebody with ADHD, it's figuring out what their strengths are. So what do they do well, and in terms of writing, where do they usually do their best writing, and then using that to get started, having figured out this is where I'm going to do it for the first little while. And if the person knows that, okay, I usually get bored after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or less than that, it could be a week, then can I start setting myself a challenge of, I don't know, writing 500 words in 10 minutes. I don't know what a good time limit on something like that is, but I guess you get the idea. And doing that for a week, seeing what comes out of it, and then if that worked, if that kept the excitement going, then can I see if I can write somewhere different? If I'm maybe used to writing at home, try and write somewhere that you're out and about, or if you're on public transport, or whatever I guess is relevant to each individual about what might be a challenge for them.
Right. And in terms of ADHD and time blindness, is there anything that you can throw some light on?
Yeah. So ADHD, time blindness, I guess the easiest way to describe it is, for most people who are ADHD, there is 2 times, and those 2 times are now and not now, which means that, if something doesn't feel urgent enough, then I'm not doing it. I don't need to do it. It's not happening right now. Even if it's only 3 hours away, it still doesn't fit into now. So that this can make planning difficult. It can make hitting deadlines difficult, or lots of people with ADHD will actually hit the deadline, but it will just be in a very pressured way, as in I got everything done in the space of 2 hours, when lots of other people probably spent 3 weeks doing the same thing. So when that's the way the brain works, it's about working with that and trying to engineer, I guess, kind of fake deadlines, as in bringing the deadline sooner. Even though we can't completely lie to ourselves, we know that that's what we've done. But if we set lots of reminders, put auditory and visual reminders, so we need to see it as well as be hearing it. Because most of us, I guess, will just put a reminder on our phone now, won't we? So the more places that we're seeing in our environment that this is something I need to be doing, this is something I need to be paying attention to, then the more likely it is that it's got our attention and we're doing something about it.
Right. This conversation's so interesting, and we're almost running out of time. But thank you so much who've joined us, Jess, Lana, and Human Potential and Resilience. If anyone from the audience has any questions, feel free to type it in, and this is a good time. In the meantime, I will ask one more final question. Which is there a difference between, say, a belief that's protecting you and one that is sabotaging you? And how do you tell which is which? Like, it almost feels the same.
Sure, yeah. And it can be really difficult to kind of get clear on those two, I think. Because a belief that's protecting you, it starts out being something that protected you. So lots of our beliefs around safety and around what we can do in the world and how we can be in our relationship, it comes from a really young age. It usually comes from within the family up until the age of like 6, 7, 8. That's when lots of our beliefs about ourselves and about the world get formed. So
Right.
a belief that's protecting you might be something like, I can't ask for too much in my relationships, or I can't be too much. And that might have protected us from feeling rejected when we were really young. But as time goes on, the longer that we hold on to that belief for, lots of things might have shifted in our lives. We have loads of new relationships. It starts to no longer be something that's protecting us, and has maybe become something that's started to sabotage the things that we really want to focus on and want to improve in our adult lives. So there's often a really thin line between those two kinds of beliefs. And it's important to recognize, okay, so this belief is maybe holding me back now. It's sabotaging me now, but it was protective. It did help me to get through something difficult in my childhood. And it did protect me. It did its job well. I'm grateful for it. And I know I need to let it go now, because in favor of something that's maybe more helpful in the present, something that allows us to achieve our current goals.
Right.
So, it might be in favor of something like, I get to be different parts of myself with different intensity, maybe depending on who I'm in relationship with. So what's too much for my boss probably isn't too much for my partner, and vice versa. Or, if relationships are a way we might look at it. And then when we want to build a new belief that is one that's still protecting us, maybe, but not holding us back anymore, it's making that personal to us, writing it down so that it's clear somewhere, and then doing things in the present that align with that belief now, even if it's in really small ways. so that we start to build it up in the present again, so that we get evidence for it, so that the subconscious mind can say, okay, this is us now. This is what we do now. This is what we believe now, because we have evidence for this change in how we are with people, or, whatever the belief is.
Great. Thank you so much, Eimear, for this conversation. And I am definitely taking a lot with me. And most of all, thank you everyone for joining. I did want to also take this opportunity to launch one of programs that I'm coming up with, which is also about building reps. And
Great.
I'll leave the link in the chat. And any other questions? By the way, it's called Consistent in 30, where we do exactly that. We just keep building reps over 30 days. But thank you so much to everyone for joining. And I'll be sending across the show notes and the recording in about a day or two. Have a wonderful night, day, morning, afternoon, wherever you join from. Thank you again. Bye-bye.